My first words in the morning to you, my friends, and a massive show note. I am going away to Rhodes, Greece. I'm flying into a forest fire basically on Saturday. So we'll figure it out. I'm going to improvise because 2 weeks is too long to go without a show. But there will be improvisation. There will be the Twitter Spaces, of course, weekly. Artist Journal, August 1st. It is already August 2023. Broadcasting from a cruise ship on its way to the Colossus of Rhodes near Turkey in Greece. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, looking forward to a vacation. As many of you know, I moved this summer, so I feel like the summer hasn't even really started yet, and all of a sudden it's August, and I'm going, I need to enjoy my summer. So anyway, there will be improvisation. I was almost thinking out loud to myself, I am thinking out loud to myself, maybe it's a fun opportunity while I'm away to actually do the live stream show where, people can, say, hey, check out this artist. Hey, check out this artist. And we kind of do that. That's just a format that I think has legs, as they say in the news business. I think that just has, to me, I think there's a lot of potential in that format. So maybe it's an opportunity to do that. I mean, that's a whole other, and of course the live commentary. So all to say, I think we might try that out. To just keep shows going, to keep some kind of thing without needing too much preparation, right? And so I can kind of have the best of both worlds, have the show on and chill out on the beach with the fires in the background. And all joking aside, actually, it sounds like it's calmed down quite a bit. And we're on the north side of the island for the first week, and the south side, where actually the fires were on the second week. But I have messaged the people at the Airbnb, and it sounds okay. Anyways, back to our show. Back to the topic at hand, our good friend out of Ukraine, Ratcloak, has put out a very ambitious work here. As per usual, it's almost a trademark of Ratcloak's style is ambition. And there are two things that really jump out at me. Once you think, there still is kind of like a bit of a bacon feel, for whatever reason, from that fake bacon series. But after that, the two things that stand out are quite remarkable for me. And the first is, I would say, the composition. Of course, this is a triptych, as is said in the title. And maybe more notably, in my heart of hearts, in my mind's eye, is actually the color. The color is quite striking. We do have some, complementary colors here, the orange, the green. I find it quite original from a color perspective, and this kind of blue-gray, and even this division of the triptych here. And as we're going to see, it's actually three paintings, three digital paintings that when you buy the triptych, you get, I think, the other paintings. So interesting mechanics there too. You could say ambitious and creative in the mechanics. Interesting shadow here, the orange on orange. We're going to zoom in. So I just want us to breathe and take this in, though. This interesting just color, the black, the orange, the blue. So, and these shadows, just the big picture that, blurred out here. Again, we're going to look up closer. And this very interesting figure here. I have to say this first one is quite striking because it feels very modern. This feels like this could be, many of us just kind of waking up, looking in the mirror and thinking about what's next, So a cool work here, more pondering here. And then there does seem to be a slight narrative here as well. And again, the shadow here bleeds into the feet, which is something I don't think I've ever seen before. Again, when you see it for the first time, it looks easy, but to actually make that irrational leap is not an easy thing to do. You see it here too, where it's almost the opposite, let's say, where the shadow is almost leaking into the feet, right? Interesting moves here with this blurring out. And then here, it's more just, it feels like we're kind of in inner space here, where the inner feeling is being projected out kind of through the chin here and through the shadow as the body kind of disintegrates into shadow. So, and finally, lest we miss this here too, the door is opening, or is closing. The door, here we have orange on both sides, but then it turns into a door that's closing. Again, kind of, the narrative, kind of confirming the narrative, for lack of better terms here. So let's take a closer look again, and let's just actually look at the title here. Untitled number 223, triptych, 12,500 by 5,400 pixels. Well, I guess if you have 3 paintings, that's not crazy. Massive size, though. The offers, look at the offers. Fluffhead Chaser at 104 Tezos, so really nice offers coming in. Rorich at 61, John Thurman at 80. Now, of course, you get other works here, and we'll go to the tweet. And so the offers are coming in. And so again, Untitled, number 2. And let's just very quickly go up close, because it's a completely different story, as you can see here. And we'll even get rid of that top part. So a completely different story, as you can see here. And it's tempting to think this is a self-portrait, isn't it? And here you just see all the nice roughness, all the different color, all the underpainting, which suggests kind of traditional painting training. That's what I see when I see this kind of underpainting style. This looks like how you'd construct a, traditional oil painting. This is super interesting. And look at all the color on the edges, which is also interesting and just kind of blending in. It's tempting to think this is Procreate, but not sure. Ratcloak uses a few different softwares, mostly Microsoft Paint, and I think Procreate. This is very tempting to think it's Procreate. Actually, I think Ratcloak uses Photoshop. This might be Photoshop. So I'm not sure if Ratcloak uses Procreate. Interesting over here. This is where it gets kind of bacon-esque, I guess we could say. Interesting hair there and everything. So if this is Photoshop, you see how, Photoshop was very slow to figure out the brushes, in my opinion, and they were forced to figure out better brushes because of Procreate started eating their lunch, and artists started going, oh, if I use Procreate, it actually looks good. So Adobe in the last 2 or 3 years, I would argue, has really upped their game with brushes. And so maybe that is what's going on here. So just very nice and painterly here, right? And just finally, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but let's just, again, it's kind of, it reminiscent also of those kind of late Warhols where he was using the rainbow, but this isn't rainbow. This is not that, but there is that kind of colored outline. And yeah, so just really interestingly painted here, almost turning into a mask of sorts, and interesting, not putting in each finger here. Interesting use of the spray too. These kind of over there, so very painterly. Again, it looks like a painter made this, which is what happened. And really nice. This white looks like it was put on top, interestingly. And this, let's not miss the black. You might not be able to see it, but it's actually, this is not flat. This is painterly. There's kind of a dark green there. I won't stay on there too long, but you see what I'm saying. And let me see. Yeah, you see it here too. You see just this looseness, as my friend would put it. That is really cool. Now let's just see what's going on here. So it is coming out of the chin, and this file is so huge that and yeah, just looking at the orange and everything, and you see coming out of almost the screaming guy, again, reminiscent of Bacon a little bit, Francis Bacon, screaming Pope a little bit, but facing a different direction. And here, so, it's hard not to see turmoil here. But interestingly, not using red, using orange. So, and again, you see this underpainting. It's like there's a blue underneath, and then it's painted over top. This is the kind of stuff, Picasso, modern art, one of the things, we talked about the flattening of the painting. Another, classic sort of modern art, for lack of a better term, technique is leaving your trail. Not overly correcting your mistakes, kind of celebrating the mistakes, and something Picasso did a lot if you look at Picasso's painting. And you could argue that's kind of going on here. There was maybe a shadow put in. Maybe it was felt like it was too strong. And then so just paint it over kind of lightly where you can still see the trace of, it's again, this idea of being able to see how the painting was constructed. And that is something that is often, leaving the trail, something that could be considered a modern trait or contemporary at this point. So just very interesting work here. Again, the color, and again, this kind of pinky flash, really nicely harmonizing with the other colors here. Very interesting work. So as you can see here on Ratcloak's page, and it is tempting to see this as a self-portrait, isn't it? Especially after seeing this. Kind of fits very well with the palette of these other works here, the Something on the Chair series. And you can see there's other 3 works here. And so I think I brought up the tweet. And yeah, you can see we just looked up close at all of these. So this is the first work. Holds really well on its own too. So exactly. So we already looked at this. And so interesting over here, just very original. I mean, what on earth is going on here? Right, so just it's not easy to be irrational, as we've learned from several artists here. So Ratcloak, this is how it works. Untitled number 223, triptych, 10 editions, open to offers. The work consists of 4 separate tokens. Leave your offers under the work with a link to it in the comments, minimum 50 Tezos. Tomorrow around this time, accepting your offers, I will send you another 3 separate pieces of work. So one assumes that if you're lucky enough to get this, you will receive the other 3 works free. So kind of interesting, right? And again, something that you can only do digitally. If you were to do it physically, let's put it this way, you wouldn't have an exact copy. And so kind of playing off the self-consciousness of the digital here. And theoretically, if this was like screen print, let's say, you could have 3 other versions, but they wouldn't be exactly the same. So kind of playing with that tension of copying, digital copies, like what does that mean? It kind of raises the question. It raises the question, which obviously is on purpose. So very interesting from Ratcloak, as per usual. And so big shout out to Ratcloak. And so very excited here to have Xerox on the show. Xerox on digital art and subversion. That'll be on the Twitter space tomorrow. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, kind of a CCO, copyright-free maestro. So I'm just very interested to learn a lot about what Xerox has to say. I believe out of Toronto. So it seems like a very friendly guy. And so anyways, I'm very excited. And if you don't know who Xerox is, you might remember this collaboration with Die With The Most Likes, right? And has quite an interesting history here. And of course, playing with the creative copyright or the CC0, and playing, of course, this looks like Xcopy, and playing with appropriation and reusing images. So I think it's going to be super interesting. Clearly someone who's thought a lot about this copy issue that we're just discussing in Ratcloak's work. So I'm really excited to just learn a lot more. There's another one that looks like it was with Die With The Most Likes. So just really cool. As you see here, if you copy a copy enough times, eventually the quality will degrade to a point where it looks original. So super interesting. This is Xerox's super rare, and as you can see, selling for 8.8 ETH, so selling for a heck of a lot of money here. These kind of modernist works almost look like Metropolis type works. So I'm, again, just super interested. And finally, Xerox here, you might commissioned a ton of work, has been on the blockchain here for a while, before I ever showed up to Object. And here is the myth. So this was commissioned by Xerox, kind of playing, I think, with the Iraq War. Here's, George W., golfing on, and there's mission accomplished. This is done by Gloomtube, by The Myth. So recognizing, there's Gabby Walter, there's Baziah, recognizing very early on this kind of canon that was developing on Object, way before I ever knew what was going on here. So we're thrilled that Xerox is coming on. That should be super interesting. Just some comments from yesterday's episode. Tornado Rodriguez. Hi, Pocobelli. Amazing as always. I got mixed feelings about the Pollock NFTs too. I can understand that they might sell them to support a museum or even the maintenance of Pollock's work. I hope so, but I find it odd to think what the artist would feel if he was alive. Would he want this to happen? From what I read and saw in Pollock's work, the materiality of dripping is part of the work. Yeah, and I think this is the big question. It kind of, exactly, it's this gray zone between, how much is the artist's name being used to basically make a bunch of money? It was a nice release, though, right? So, as I always like to say here, quoting the great Brian Tracy, assume the best. So, and they made a bunch of money. Maybe it's going to help the Jackson Pollock studio. I assume it's a kind of museum of sorts. I don't know. I mean, it should be, because why wouldn't you turn it into a museum? And there's nothing wrong with that either. So, yeah, and of course, Pollock, the dripping, so it kind of fits. Like, it's a great idea, but yeah, it does raise interesting questions. And also, I believe this Cider, thank you for the appearance once again. Love this episode. I'm really thrilled to have Cider in the audience. I'm a huge fan. And I think we do have another Cider this episode. And same with Rada. Excellent episode. Thank you, Rada. Always appreciate your support. And Leprochant, who we showed the work in progress. Your voice made it happen, which is hilarious. And PP Universal, CEM, thank you. And Primitive Intel, just message me with your work anytime. And so, excuse me. So that continues. And also, Uxine, we heard from in the Twitter comments. That alien thing is a detail from this one. So we're actually going to look at this up close. This episode coming up shortly. Minted out already at 0.123 ETH. We will take a closer look. There are a few things to say there. Just a couple of things before that, though. The Myth. This week, new drop on Tezos. Next week, maybe my first piece on Foundation. So this is super interesting. Now, Myth is on super rare. So again, it's interesting to see this kind of thinking that goes on where, because I've had the same thoughts, and maybe it's just why not super rare, right? And maybe it's just because there's different collector bases and there's just a different feel. Maybe you want to save your grand oil painting, so to speak, for super rare. All to say, I think that will be something to look for. Another work from Myth on Ethereum, which, again, these blockchains bring out different qualities and different almost work, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon as well. I mean, how would you compare that to physical art? Maybe if you have a different gallery, it's almost like that. Maybe you make different work for Gagosian, but for your other Paris gallery, you make, some other kind of work. Just, what I'm... So could be a rough analogy like that. Look at Popple. So doing well again here with 34,000 views. And maybe just as importantly, if not more interestingly, this process. Again, Popple is kind of like, classic pixel artist, but it's really interesting to see Popple move into, I think you'd call this rasterizing. I brought it up close. You can see this is like a classic print process here. So turning, I assume this is a pixel artwork at first, and now going back to print. I think that's what's going on here. So that is super interesting. The color is quite interesting too. This kind of shimmering, translucent, almost rainbow-esque color scheme. And Twitter is liking it. And again, this dark, what I used to call dark pixel art, but this isn't pixel art anymore. Theoretically, I think you could do this as a screen print if you're, because this is, again, this is a print technique, and you could do this, I think, in theory, as a CMYK screen print. Maybe you put the black as the last layer, the K. So pretty interesting. So again, it starts to, when you start to go outside the screen here with like print, again, it just brings up like, are all these artists going to end up in galleries at some point? And when I see this, that's kind of what I think. We celebrate visual culture here, and so this is something that me as an artist, I pay attention to. This has nothing to do with art, you might say. This will change so many lives. A student at Stanford University has developed an extraordinary pair of glasses that can transcribe speech in real time for deaf people. This is opening a whole new world of communication. So, here it is. And basically this guy talks and it gets transcribed on these glasses that this person is wearing. And so, again, as people who are interested in cutting edge visual experience and what, this is worth noting. Again, this, like what I like to call alpha for artists here. To me, this is, in my own universe, this is alpha. This is interesting. So, and quite fascinating and kind of a wonderful thing where, people with hearing loss will be able to understand people and communicate in real time. I mean, that's a major problem. So, fascinating. And we've been looking at this gallery, as people who have been watching this show for a few months know, for a few months. This Kristen Hjellerjurdi. I've been to the gallery in Berlin. There's one in London. I think maybe either Denmark or Finland, somewhere in there. And now I'm just showing you, like, this gallery is, again, like blowing up, I'd argue. Now they're receiving love letters from West Palm Beach. It's happening. So 28th of October, 2023. So now they're opening up in Florida. West Palm Beach. I think that's a very, very rich area, if I'm not mistaken. So, just showing, just letting you know. So let's take a quick look here at Uxine. So the meeting, cool title, based on the sense of sight. I brought that up, actually, where we can compare it. But let's just take a look at the work first. So, of course, we looked at the detail of this, a little crop here. Zooming out a bit, it's got an interesting kind of arc here. I'm not sure if this is in the original, that this is a pastiche. And we'll look in a second here. And this is hilarious. What looks like a nuclear power plant, I'm not sure, with a big pixelated dollar sign on it flashing, which is pretty funny. X seems to be a reference to the new Twitter name, now called X. And I think this is brilliant too. This is very fun visually. Again, the dexterity here, the conceptual dexterity of Uxine here. And here you have this kind of faceless monk figure, friar. And then you see in the mirror, hauntingly, the retro Mac. And of course, this is the meeting, is the title. And it seems to be an alien over here talking to the business person. And then here, of course, this looks like a William Burroughs reference. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Burroughs liked to start, I think, several novels, at least one. That was his favorite saying, William Burroughs, quoting Hassan Isaba, who I think were like hashish assassins from like the 10th or 11th century. I'm not sure which country they come out of. And this was kind of their, I suppose for lack of a better term, their doctrine. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. So just an interesting, arguably dangerous philosophy there. So all to say, a beautiful square work, seemingly. So let's look at the original. Now, very quickly, this was minted out already at 0.123, hilariously, ETH. Uxine continues to deliver quite well to his market, I would say. Like, is doing a really nice job of keeping the momentum and everything. Let me just show you the original. So that arc here, this kind of half circle, is an edition by Uxine. So here's the original. So you kind of a window into Uxine's process here. So really, with the pastiche, taking a lot of liberties, you might say, really transforming the work here. So we've looked at some of the other pastiches that Uxine did a few months ago. It seems like he's starting to get, even more creative with the distance they are taking. And really, I mean, it is a beautiful composition here. And who is this by? Philippe Mercier, The Sense of Sight. So interesting, massive file here, 4,000, nice big file here. And then they're looking at this tablet here of a map, The Sense of Sight. So everybody is looking at this person is looking at themselves, this person is looking out, this person is looking at the representation of something. So this is kind of a celebration. This person with the magnifying glass, and maybe this person just looking up close. This seems to be a kind of celebration of vision. So that is interesting. Never seen that painting before. Let's just quickly go back. So an interesting, take here. And here this person looks to be maybe drinking a martini or something. And so just very, very interesting work from Uxine, minted out probably very quickly. Guess whose birthday it is? It's Mikey de la Creme's birthday. We have a new work by Levon shortly after yesterday's work, Portrait of Don Mikey de la Creme giving advice. Wishing you a joyous birthday, Don Mikey. Your influence and strength are unmatched. May the stars align in your favor. Levon, Yonki. Digital painting, so a 1 of 1 sent to Mikey de la Creme, so an awesome gift for an art collector. What more would you want? And again, just beautifully painted here. And I guess this is Levon here with a kind of mask of sorts. And of course, Mikey de la Creme with the signature balaclava here in the form of the Godfather. So all pretty hilarious. And again, beautifully done here. A very, very nice work, beautifully painted. So just cool work here. A testament to this community and culture. So look who it is. It's Cider again with another just super experimental, painterly work here. I don't know how Cider is getting all of these fascinating textures, but I do know it's working. And it's kind of back to this digital art textures. It kind of like what we're starting to see in works like this is a similar aesthetic appreciation, at least for me, than the kind that we experience looking at oil paintings. Or at paintings in general. This kind of, the randomness of physicality, as I like to call it, is entering, these digital works, and you see it here, kind of a variation of what we were seeing with Rat Cloaksy's dark background where it was all painted. Well, here it's using distortion and everything. So just super interesting. It looks like someone familiar. I'm not sure. I really like this kind of use of distortion by Cider. So very cool there. Board Me Social Club with an open edition, very, very low price, and a few things going on here. So a boxing match, and that looks like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. And I still haven't seen the last 5 minutes of that movie, believe it or not. And I was at a bar, and I had to go to work the next day, and I literally was waiting and waiting for it to finish, and then finally I left, and it was like, then it finished. So, all to say, interestingly rough work by Board Me Social Club. I like this a lot. And again, you're starting to see this kind of underpainting stuff happen. Again, very painterly, beautiful, textured. Very nice work going in here. This looks like the names of the boxers who I'm not sure about or who they are, and this is also kind of almost a shout out to working class maybe. And so again, very experimental. And you can see the white underneath. This is pretty rough for Board Me Social Club, isn't it? So very interesting. I like it. It's very painterly. Like, it's beautiful. 7 minted, 1 Tezos 83. So the experimenting continues. Dirty Dancing. Interesting title. The music on this is awesome, by the way. Audio by Chris War, and of course this is Demon Ego. This is a beautiful, beautiful work here. Migrating to another body to change gravity. Let's see if we can get some volume here. This was in my head. I listened to this like an hour ago. Just the first few seconds, and it was in my head all morning. Really like the music here. It's beautiful too, by the way. Beautiful combination of digital and physical here. Like, really nicely done work here by Demon Ego and Chris War. So what's just 1 of 1? Let's see what happened. Maybe it was sent to someone. Just minted. Maybe they'll auction it. Who knows? Really, really nice work. You Dare to Play, Now Face the Consequences. So also a work by Demon Ego, minted this morning. And 6 are left. And let's look at this. So more experimentation. Again, combining the digital here and drawing, and nice dithering in this one, and just very interesting use of GIFs here. And then here we have this looks like digital drawing, not physical, but hard to say. You never know here. And playing also with that graph paper or the cutting board trope in this work, making a big person or monster here. You see the shoes or the feet and the legs. It's almost like this, visual compilation of a body. A visual compilation of a body, and then you have these works on the side kind of complementing it. Just really cool work. Morbus Delusionalis is the series. Nice work from Demon Ego. Jake Studios. This was interesting too. Blue Screen of Life, digitally drawn animation at auction for $330, an edition of 1. We'll look at what's going on with that auction there. God is talking to us through the boxes. Wokay. Again, a broken JPEG. We've looked at Jake Studios' work before. Interesting screen here, and kind of an unhappy figure here, and someone with a mask who's unhappy. So just very interesting work here, as usual. Let's see the auction. 22 hours to go, no bids. Minimum bid $330. If nobody bids, I may sneak in there for a 1 of 1 from Jake Studios. That would be fantastic. I thought this was hilarious. Wasteman Goldminovich. I feel like you're watching the program. We were discussing Brian Tracy and life coaching. Life coaching certificate, well done, you deserve it. I thought this was hilarious. Certificate, this is to certify that, and then you have the crooked line here, let me bring it up bigger, have passed the course, spelt wrong, in life coaching as certified, spelt wrong, by the online school of life coaching on the intranet. This is great. So this is an open edition. If I had a little more Tezos in my wallet, I would get one. 1 day, 7 hours, maybe I still will, 1 Tezos. So that is cool. A couple of more by Wasteman Goldminovich here. Interesting piece, still life with chair, book, and slipper, painting for the masses. So just an interesting, simple work here with an art book on a chair, a cigarette, and a slipper. Also a Tezos edition of 7. There are 4 left. And another failed artist. This is number 35, Self-Portrait, The Last Supper, Killed by Lameness. So another dark failed artist work here. Almost you see the sleeping figure in the chest here, in the torso, and with the electric chair and everything. And there's the McDonald's and the jester hat. And so sad ending, Killed by Lameness. 3 Tezos, and there are 10 left. And working class here, I thought this was quite interesting. Soy Ese, I'm not sure what the title is, Ryan Gosling in Drive. So Ryan Gosling in a movie by working class, made with Microsoft Paint, but this time just with the mouse. So I just thought this was interesting. This is like a painting made in Microsoft Paint with a mouse. And also I like the subject matter too. And I wasn't exactly sure. I assume these are scenes from the movie. And this is kind of a working class signature of sorts here, this happy face, I think. These are probably scenes from the movie. Maybe it's even, from the movie poster, not sure. Just interesting work. 1 of 1 for 101 Tezos from working class. And are there any offers? There are no offers yet. Ranextier with an interesting, let's get this plane here, an interesting animated abstract work here. And this is an edition of 30 for 5 Tezos. How many are left? 29 left, just minted. And interesting use of spray paint here. And you can see the different colors and everything. So just another kind of surreal work here. And here you see the digital pixels in here for contrast. Just interesting work from Ranextier. Always interesting. Continuing on, Francois Gamma, Stairs. This is new as well, so just minted here. And so playing with the walking figure, but moving downstairs. So maybe that's a new addition here. An interesting, portrayal of the body here as these horizontal lines. 3 Tezos each. So you could probably guess who this is. Element Lee continues to be super interesting. Apartment and Pot. So again, these kind of surreal pixel artworks, and it looks like one of the rules that Element Lee has given themselves is to go diagonally only at a 45-degree angle. Here's a building and here's a pot. Just really super interesting experimental pixel artist. And here looks like a lighter version, maybe a work in progress of sorts, or just different colors. Just different colors. So very interesting here. Again, we're playing with these copies, different versions, different remixes. Now those quotes at the bottom, see these quotes here? They are here too. Interesting. Sabato with a really interesting Barbie World glitch ROM. And you see here, kind of, I think he was calling it Brambly on Twitter. Interesting, again, kind of really noisy and looks like almost like a cityscape. And then you see Barbie skating through it. I thought a really nice piece here. 841, still available. And there are 3 left. So that is cool. Road Less Traveled by Sabato. Explainer Gallery in Muji with a work here. Tabula Cyber Agdina. I thought the colors on here were awesome, and I think my favorite part is actually this bottom area, really nicely done here. And all these different kind of like pixel, machinations, for lack of a better word here, and just kind of interesting. It looks like a vending machine, right? But it's kind of turned into a pixel art vending machine of sorts, celebration of pixels and different, movements here. So really, really nicely done. Kind of a variation on the color. So very cool. And looks like Hermes Trismegistus. So a device that contains all the primordial secrets of the universe. The original 16 lines of the Emerald Tablet, written by Hermes Trismegisto, were turned into an infinite code by the Void Alchemists long ago. So that is a whole other topic here. What do they call that? The Hermetic Corpus. The Hermetic Corpus, thought to date back to ancient Egypt, but then recent scholars have argued these books that were kind of seen, I think Cosimo de' Medici wanted those translated before even the Platonic works by, I think it was Marcello Ficino. And interestingly, because the Hermetic Corpus was seen as so like the ultimate kind of metaphysical knowledge, thought to date back to ancient Egypt, but I was reading an essay maybe 10 years ago that actually scholars think the works may have come from about 200 to 300 AD. So kind of more of a Gnostic work, interestingly. So just a little bit of background there on the Hermetic Corpus. Nice piece. I love how, combining these like ancient themes and narratives with like pixel art. I love it. Speaking of which, Symbolic Vision, Chamber of Dreams, by this anonymous artist here. So more just using video game tiles, for lack of a better term, to create new, again, kind of mystical works here. Kind of goes really nicely with that last work. Gotta love the hourglass down here. So interesting work here. Symbolic Vision number 16. Let's just see if they're selling. Just minted, not listed. Here's another one. Let me just see. Just minted, not listed. And this is number 17, The Holes. So again, very reminiscent to what looks like maybe a Sega video game. This isn't like early video games. This is like, maybe 10 years in, or, let's guess 1992 or something. Interesting gradient here and everything. So just more interesting art. And again, that kind of mystical, iconography in the series here. And here's another one, Symbolic Visions. Again, kind of a metaphysical feeling. This looks almost like corn in the front here. And again, using video games to create and compose new works of art. Beautiful. This is Gons, an entrance for the last starship on Earth. Glitch art made mixing video feedbacks with a previous glitched image on P5.js and Procreate. So doing a lot of combination here. I thought it was just an interesting abstract work here, animated abstract work. Just interesting dragging of the brush. I thought the color in the background, black and white, just interesting work from Gons, edition of 7, 5 left at 5 Tezos. And Human Kernel, who I think could show in the same room here, Melted at Park. Find a reason, lose a reason. You know what I found interesting about this was how small it is. It seems Human Kernel, who I think is Santiago, is experimenting with this series and making, this looks like low resolution I'd guess this is like 200 by 200, but this is the original size here. I like this small thing. And it would also, maybe this is what's sort of stumping me here. This isn't scaled up, because oftentimes this stuff will be, this pixel artwork will be scaled up, and then you see it kind of big. Interestingly, not scaled up. So at auction for 15 Tezos, let's just see if anybody is bidding on it. There is one bid at 15 Tezos. So there's John Thurman. All right, John Thurman is buying. This is great. I'm seeing him all over the place now. So we looked at that. Here's another one by Human Kernel, edition of 20 for 220. I thought this was great. Again, playing with these profile pictures as a means of experimentation. It's almost like the anti-PFP project, I think they call it. So just more interesting kind of pixel art. Nice piece. Secret Adventures, cool title too. Tom Battle, Cosmic Energy of Twilight Towers. So also kind of, again, has that 1940s pulp sort of look to it. This kind of almost looks like a massive periscope coming out, or some sort of light spotlight of sorts, and then the light goes up. So again, playing with this light visual theme. We saw it in the train. We saw it in a few others, with just like, maybe 15% opacity here, a layer of light flashing. And I think the flashing really makes it work and makes it interesting and makes it come alive. And you see it in here too. So this is part of Spectrum Aesthetics, a newer series by Tom Battle. And here's Byte by Bit with a new constellation, Planet Pixel Lyra. And so using PC Paint, retro tools here, I believe this is a 1 of 1 and a constellation. This is for 10 Tezos by Byte by Bit. BBB. Here is Not a Number with another, let's just bring it up here. This is a busier work. And of course, the dithering is done in, I think, P5JS. And then the color is done in GIMP. So we're starting to see more complexity here. Let me see if I can make this bigger. We're starting to see complexity in the dither here. Maybe starting to offset it a little bit. That's what that blue looks like. So that is also getting interesting to just see what I think Not a Number tweeted out in saying that just trying to keep experimenting and pushing things forward. And that's clearly what you see, which is why I keep showing it, because it keeps being interesting. So great work there. Green Ginger, Minimaxilixum. We're fully working mine with some watchtowers. So again, these kind of mini architectural works. And so there's a mine. That looks like it might have been burned. Higashi Nikatsu by Renki. So again, an animated abstract experimenting with digital textures and what looks like feedback, delay, to use audio metaphors, and just really cool work here. As usual, by Renki, there is one available at 10 Tezos, and Native Ed with an interesting work here, a never-ending but yet never started love story. So two figures walking towards each other but never meeting. Again, using this kind of almost metaphysical backdrop here with this checkered floor and this circle in the middle changing, almost going CMYK, but not quite. There's a green in there too. So interesting work from Native Ed, edition of 15 for 10 Tezos. And let's run through the rest of this here. What do we have? Ex-Mortal. Inertia RGB, like moss to a flame. So also figures here coming out of a retro TV that is spinning. And you see a little bit of, pixelation is probably not the right word, but a little bit of just texture in there. And love the side here. This is great, and just kind of really warm, textured gray. So texture is the order of the day here. And what is the deal? It is 32 Tezos on secondary, edition of 35. So this sold out on primary at 7 Tezos each. And it looks like it sold out pretty quickly, within a couple of hours. Nice work. So popular piece. Recursion by Eitzo. So Eitzo has a few retro TVs here. And as you can see, it looks like actually the retro TVs are on the TV. So a picture in a picture, something you would see in Walt Disney's Comics and Stories from the 1940s. If we had more time, shall we look? That's at 9 Tezos, edition of 44, 33 left. Walt Disney Comics and Stories, picture in a picture, golden age. How could this not be here? I think I gave the perfect prompt here. Where's ChatGPT? Maybe I've given too much work. Picture in picture. Let's just see. because it's like an infinite regress. Maybe that's what I should call it. Here it is. See this? It's almost like that we're seeing in 8. So this is classic. Super, super classic. These are remarkably cheap, I might add. Some of these Golden Age. I haven't looked in the last few years, but you could get these for like 50, $100, which in fairly good condition for these like 1940s Donald Duck. I love this stuff. I have a few of these, like maybe 3 or 4. Not this one specifically. This tends to be worth more. The picture in a picture, that is special for the comic collectors. Continuing on. I can't afford comics anymore. Another happy birthday to Mikey Wilson. Happy birthday, Mikey. Blue Bear. Love this work by Martin Joe. Great music. Celebrating the guitars at Mikey Wilson with the bear. I mean, it's brilliant. Great work, Martin Joe. Really nice piece. And here's another one. Islay, Creme de la Creme, happy birthday, AI painting. So very likely for our friend Mikey Wilson here too. So you just have to love it, don't you? You just have to love it. And it looks great too. Cool AI painting by Islay. And it looks like the ice cream, nice and painterly up here. And this looks almost like cotton candy turning into flowers and everything. Nice piece. Creme de la Creme. I like how it's almost on its own picture plane up here on top. Very nice. Edition of 1 sent to Mikey Wilson. And here's Sky Goodman. May all your years be golden and rich with culture. 1 of 1 for Mikey Wilson on his birthday. So you gotta love it. I mean, there's at least 4 works we've seen here for Mikey Wilson's birthday. Big shout out and happy birthday, Mikey. Yeah. I mean, probably, supported this scene more than anybody, for longer than anybody. I mean, maybe that's an overstatement, but I just can't, and consistently. So anyway, all to say, massive happy birthday. Cool piece, Sky Goodman, with massive highs here, massive kicks, AI kicks, and with a wild, wild backpack here, Sky Goodman. Another work by Sky Goodman, absolutely slayed by the landscape. So a ton of work put it in VR, analog glitch, bent machines. So just a ton of exporting going on here. Edition of 12 for 30 Tezos, and just a huge amount of experimentation here. Interesting pixelation here, contrasting with more dragging. So just tons of experimentation by Sky Goodman. And there is 1 on secondaries. Let's just see what it sold for on primary. 10 Tezos each. So nice haul there. And Connect Zapta. This is great, isn't it? Taking Japanese, woodcut iconography for back, style, and then adding what looks like a massive synthesizer here and kind of combining them. It works surprisingly well. Connect Zapta, let's just see what's going on. Sold for 10 Tezos only to Danielle Jerome. Nice piece. And Zoom with another work. I found this one kind of moving. Kind of this old couple here. Where we're all heading. So just kind of an interesting addition. This is Experimental Random. And nice title there too. Maybe a kind of portrait of the parents of sorts, perhaps. Great sweaters. Really nice AI artwork from Zoom. And look at these great works by Shirley Preston. Still Life of 17th Century QPC Meal. Just some really awesome McDonald's works by Shirley Preston, almost dripping with what looks like sugar or syrup. Hilarious here. So burger and fries, and here bucket of fries. So playing with, I guess, 17th century still lifes. Shout out to Mom. And just really nice work here. Cool AI artwork and sold out. I'm sure right away. People love the McDonald's stuff. Sale of 3.5 billion Tezos. So I'm not sure how they pulled that off. That is a lot of Tezos. I don't know what's going on there, but that is interesting to say the least. Fries on a silver platter as we wrap up here. Beautiful. Kind of looks like a Ming vase here or something, and almost has a bit of a Chinese feel to it. In the objects here, fries on a silver platter, Baroque, Guy Fieri, trash art. Well, it's beautiful. There's nothing trashy about this, at least on the surface. Beautiful milk here and just beautiful. That looks like the McDonald's meal like brown bag here. That looks very elite. A trashy meal at a trashy joint, finally, and some beautiful light in this one. And again, a nice McDonald's work by Shirley Preston. A 1 of 1. Let's just see what it sold for. Just listed for 9. Oh, you know what this probably is? You know what this is? This is trash. This is the trash token. So we need to return, actually, to that trash marketplace. We should look at the price of trash as well, maybe next episode. All right, so hopefully I see you at the Twitter Spaces tomorrow with Xerox. So that should be super interesting. Until next time, take care.